Welcome, everyone. This is a first interview with TanyaOrbera, one of my former students, and Pizarro. He'll be coming in more in the tail end of things because this is more about Tanya. She was the inspiration for this interview.
Spotlight is on her.
Well, it should always be about the woman, of course. And so the whole concept is, in life, sometimes you go down a one direction and you think that you're preparing yourself for one direction, but then, either you're influenced by something or something happens. Obviously, there's a lot of pivots going on right now, but it's just really interesting to get into those conversations because it's good. It's good for people to hear these stories because then it maybe empowers them to make the pivots that they need to make.
Of course.
So we'll have some fun with this. So Tanya, the first question that we will kick off with, which is just to make it fun and lighthearted. How did you make money as a kid?
Okay. So I actually started working at the age of 15. At this time, I lived in Arizona. So, you had to be at least 16 to work. So a friend of mine kind of taught me how to fix up a copy of your birth certificate to make you a year older so that you can get a job. So my first job I did was selling makeovers in the mall. It was 100% commission based. But then when I was able to kind of change my age a little bit, I actually went to McDonald's. And McDonald's was the first job that I actually had that was a real job that paid me a regular salary with a little bit of benefits and free food.
That's awesome. And it's one of the friends that's going to come on and do one of these is Kasmarte from Conbody, and he has a great story. And it's funny how many of the people that I know did something just so slightly on the illegal side early on to make money.
Yeah, I mean, you had to do a small illegal thing so that you could make money legally, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm very happy that I did it because it showed me responsibility and, income at a very young age. From that point on, I worked in a lot of call centers. That's kind of where I built up my customer service background. And we started at 16 from selling newspapers, from doing surveys. I was literally jumping around from call centers. I've worked in every field that you can think about when it comes to customer service. I mean, cell phones, making appointments to see cars, cable. I used to work for Cablevision in the Bronx. So and then I worked in the hospital in the Bronx as well before I transitioned and found my true passion and calling for tourism and hospitality.
Awesome. Well, we'll get to that in a moment.
Of course.
Who taught you the value of money as a kid?
Honestly, no one. I didn't have the best role model when it came to the value of money. And to be quite honest, I started learning a little bit more now as an adult and with my own business, having my own business totally taught me the real value of money. But I must give some credit to Joshua, who is all about, being responsible with your credit and investing in, money. So he has recently made me a lot smarter and wiser when it comes to money, credit, and investing in the future.
That's nice. It's never a bad thing. And I'm amazed myself. I've invested in some things early on, but most of my mainstream investments have only happened recently. Inspired by the pandemic, because that's when there's a lot of...
that's when you had to pivot, huh?
Pardon?
That's when you had to pivot.
Yeah, right. Well, yes.
Have to see the opportunity in the times. That's kind of how it is.
Awesome. Okay, another question, Tanya. So what was the best lesson you learned from the first 6 months of your tour business? We're fast forwarding big time.
Okay.
To
skipping education, skipping how I even found this whole, thing.
Okay, valid. Let's rewind. So
the transition, right? Like, how did I transition from being a woman that worked in a call center and went from job to job to job to job to job to job to job, right? To finally literally just studying and just taking that leap of faith, never working for another business. I never even interned for anyone or any business that had to do with hospitality or tourism. I literally just took everything that you taught me, within marketing side, but I took all of what I learned as far as like, I always knew that there was a way for me to make money by me providing service, right? Like I was like, okay, I know that I know how to provide great service to people, but how can I make money off of it? And not by being on the phone, by servicing them and providing them with an experience or treating them, in a way that people want to be treated, So finding because of our final project that you had us do and creating this tour in New York using, not popular destinations, just really made me think that it's okay when I came to Puerto Rico and I kind of wandered myself. And I found places that I felt like other people would like to experience, but didn't know about it, never heard about it, because they don't talk about these very remote places of Puerto Rico, right? Like they just talk about the more popular destinations and what most travelers want to visit. And I'm more like, no, if you're gonna come to Puerto Rico, you're gonna get treated like a Puerto Rican, you're gonna feel like a Puerto Rican, you're gonna eat and you're gonna get that true local experience. You're not gonna get a tourist experience. So, that is kind of what my passion of people and service, and of course my true dying love for this island kind of just created this amazing business for myself. So Real PR Tours was born. And when it comes to like what were the first few lessons that I learned within the first 6 months, number one, I had to do mostly everything on my own. Financially, I didn't have a budget, to be able to provide, hire people to do anything, whether it's the tours themselves, whether it's marketing, whether it's the finances, web designing, anything that had to do with making this business, just keep functioning, I pretty much had to do on my own. So learning that when you are a business owner and you're literally just starting off, you will do if you want it to function and you want it to be successful, you got to be ready to work and pretty much work in every position where you would hire. So you're all departments in one.
What sparked the interest in the tourism program at LaGuardia in the first place?
So the thing is that, okay, so I started my, my college education with Bronx Community College, and I started off doing social work. When I did the background on that, oh my God, a whole lot of work and not enough money. I was like, okay. Then I went into business management, and that year I just wasn't really dedicated. I really didn't apply myself, and I stopped going to school. And then when I came to Puerto Rico, a friend of mine who actually works in the hotel industry out here and has been in the hotel industry for a while, kind of like gave me that he kind of put it in my head, because he said, hey, if you ever move to Puerto Rico, I will help you get into the hotel industry. So in my mind, I was like, well, since that's maybe in the next few years, let me just prepare myself and maybe just educate myself. And I don't know, like when I went back to New York and seeing that, since I was within the CUNY, like the CUNY districts, I didn't want to go into like a program that wasn't going to take too many of my credits. So literally a person that lived all the way in the Bronx, the only CUNY school besides City College, which is a lot more expensive than LaGuardia, LaGuardia was the only school that offered the program that I wanted in the, in the district that I wanted. So, and it was just like God redirected my life and was like, this is what you were born to do. Because honestly, Professor, was kind of weird. I was born in New York, but I was actually raised on the West Coast. Like I lived in California for like from 1.5 years to 13. Then I lived in Arizona for 6 years. So like the first 19 years of my life was like in a West Coast place where there wasn't very many Puerto Ricans, right? So it's like I had to grow up, like I grew up with like having my culture only within my home and like my family, but outside of my home and my family wasn't really shared. Our music, our food, just like the way that we speak was different in comparison to like other Latin cultures that were, in California and places like that. So I was ambassador of Puerto Rico from young. my family and I would have these necklaces with Puerto Rican flags. My uncle would handcraft them with wood and make these like, special necklaces for us. Big t-shirts, flags all over my bedroom. So it's really weird that I have, come full circle in my life as an adult. And here I am, a full ambassador for Puerto Rico still.
That's great. That's awesome. Can you describe the pivot of deciding to leave mainland US to go to Puerto Rico? I mean, I remember that whole period, and when did you make the decision to just go?
Okay. So I had came here on a visit, really quick getaway in February of 2016. So class with us had already ended. You had totally mentioned that if anyone in the class wanted to make their project a business, that you'll be willing to help them out. Now, basically, you're willing to give us free knowledge as your students for things that we know that you charge other people for, your services, as far as like being a consultant of ours or even a mentor of ours in this business and industry. It stuck in my mind, but my heart wasn't in New York City. And, because my project was about, New York living, it was about, the Puerto Ricans of New York and the impact of their migration. I just didn't take advantage of it. But when I came here, and I had wandered off, what happened was that I got stuck. The weather had canceled my flight. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. Just give me 2 extra days. I'll come back on Wednesdays. And during that time, when I ended up in this very tranquil, remote, it's kind of weird, Professor, because when Joshua did my podcast, I actually took him to the place where the idea of Real PR Tours even came to life. And it's still a very remote destination, right? Right, Josh?
It's a beautiful place. Beautiful, beautiful. It's so tranquil. Like, I can see how it was not an easy transition, because I think as New Yorkers, I think we feel like everywhere else doesn't compare.
Right.
But being in that space, I can see how, like,
the idea.
Transition and the idea. It's a beautiful island. You're doing it.
So what happened was, Professor, because it was this like remote and tranquil place, and I knew that the concept of our project was destinations that weren't popular, and I was like, there's no tourism here whatsoever. That is when the idea of the business came out, because I'm like, oh my God, I can just use the whole idea that we had to do for this project but just apply it to Puerto Rico. And literally, like the very next day, I spent it on the beach, and I'm just taking, and it's just, the thought would not leave my mind. And I'm like, I'm going back. I'm gonna call my professor. I'm gonna take him up on his offer. I went home. I started designing my website on Wix. And I think me and you met maybe like 4 days after I got back, because that's just how determined I was. Maybe like 2 months later, I had met with a friend, and the friend was like, listen, it's an amazing idea, but you have to pick an actual date that you're going to launch this. And because the person that like raised me and gave me my, my full pride of being Puerto Rican and loving this culture was my aunt, and she had passed away. So I wanted to honor her and my launch on her birthday of March 18th of 2017. Not only was it only 11 months after I had the date set for myself, but I also came with a 3-week-old baby, because Professor, the last time that we met before I moved, I was huge. I had a whole belly.
Yep. That was, I can remember it vividly, the talking through the different steps and talking about target audience, talking about the product.
I still have that marketing plan with me. Yeah. Even all the notes that you wrote on it, I still have it with me.
That's good. And then, so, you make the big move, you go to Puerto Rico, you upheave, you go, not just you go. And how did things kick off,
Okay, so to be quite honest, because I did spend those 11 months, like getting myself on the very important platforms like Biter and TripAdvisor and Yelp at the time, and then also building my website. I kind of honestly, I was getting bookings for, obviously I backed up, I backdated my availability, because I knew when I was gonna get there, I was gonna land in Puerto Rico on March 10th. I was doing a private family and friends launch on March 18th, which was my aunt's birthday. And then, but because I had did that, I was already getting bookings. I was still in New York. So bookings were coming in for like March 20th, or no, March 24th, March 30th, April something. I was like, so literally before I even landed in Puerto Rico, I had about 10 reservations. And I did my first tour only 14 days after being in PR. And it was amazing. You know, I've learned a lot. I built the network that I built with the locals here, like the certain things that I have at my disposal, you know, like my captain that I use for my private boat rides and things like that. We're family now. So now it's one of those things that I don't have to just bring business to him. If I want to take my family out on a family day, if I just want to go and hang out for the day, you know, I'm able to do that because I brought him so much business. Oh my God, this boating became one of that's what I'm really known for now as far as my company goes, like knowing to having this private boating experience for bachelorettes, for birthday parties, taking them and just kind of being the life of a party, you know, like I still have that in me from New York. Like I still like to have a good time and I want everyone to have a good time.
The turn up.
But I also know how to provide an experience to a family. So I'm just that chameleon that my personality blends in with whoever books me. Because sometimes I have an older couple that's from England, you know, and we'll have a blast and they'll just have a great time going to places where they're eating outdoors on the side of the road, where they're kind of like the only tourists in the area. And that's the experience that I provide.
No, it's good. So the first 5.5 months were fantastic, right?
Amazing.
And then what happened?
Amazing. And then the worst hurricane in like 100 years hit Puerto Rico. Well, before that, we had a little hurricane that kind of messed it up, but not too bad. So we definitely thought we were in the clear. The hurricane after that just went around Puerto Rico, but the one right after that was literally Puerto Rico's it was the bullseye. We were the bullseye for Hurricane Maria, 100%.
It just, to me, it's amazing when I give little snippets of your story. I say, you know, she was my student, and then, you know, she came up with this idea. Then I give a little bit of advice. She upheaves her family. She moves to Puerto Rico, and she does great for 6 months, and then boom, Maria hits.
And it's just one of those things that it was an overnight situation. I mean, I was, you know, what I had seen, this beautiful, beautiful place, you know, and that was just so amazing. Like just driving, ask Joshua, when we just drive to Puerto Rico, it's like just the scenery is breathtaking, you know, to see it become, and I've also sent a picture of what it looked like right after, to see it become this like dry and just ramble place, like just, it was just heartbreaking. You just did not think, you couldn't even see that, think that it was ever gonna bounce back. You just didn't see it happening. Then you had to deal with no power. We automatically had to go into survival mode. We went about 76 days without power. So those days we had to either spend looking for water, or trying to get gas, trying to get ice, trying to find, you know, gas, not just gas for the car, but the propane gas so that we can cook on our camping stove for dinner, because we do have electric stoves out here in Puerto Rico. So, I mean, there was like, you know, it went from work to just survival mode and being the hunter and gatherers for my family. But those 76 days, they came and they went. And I remember doing my first tour on December 30th. So Maria hit on September 20th. So a little bit more than 90, like 100 days later, I did my first tour. And it was my volunteerism tour, where we opted to do, it was my food tour. So what I didn't want were people that were coming here just to volunteer, because there were some people that were charging people to volunteer. Right. So what I did is that at my food tour, because part of it was on a beach, I offered a discount of $15 if you're willing to do some of the volunteerism. So you still got a food tour, you still got to go to the market, you still got to get a tasting, you still got to do the hands-on cooking, but we just did maybe like a 45-minute beach cleanup, because many people wanted to contribute. Some wanted to help in hospitals, some wanted to help, but I want you to help what works for me, and that's picking up my island, right? So that we can get back to making it look beautiful again. So, and that was actually my number one seller for a very long time.
I remember distinctly you contacting me and like, Professor, what do I do? I can't do what I did before because, there just wasn't the market for it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the biggest pivots that I think of when it comes to you is thinking of, through the realities. And you had so many people that wanted to go and help. They just didn't know how to. They didn't know where to start. They didn't know who to go to. And you gave them that platform. You gave them that.
And what I did later on is I actually linked up with this nonprofit animal rescue, this girl, and we actually did one tour where we took a couple tours, and she literally had about 17 dogs. And the couple had brought them, the donations. We walked the dogs. They had a little bit of emotional support with the dogs. So that was, and the lady also had a horse, but because it had rained a lot, it was very muddy where the horse was. We couldn't go back there because she was even willing to have people groom the horse and stuff like that. So it was really, really cool. Another thing, Professor, that you actually gave me the idea of, and to be quite honest, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background. So actually, this has to do a little bit with Josh, because another idea that you have given me was the real estate tourism. About people that were interested in, people that were interested in wanting to buy property in Puerto Rico, because obviously the market went super low and all the investors' eyes went like this. And I had actually came across Josh's Instagram page, just very uniquely, randomly. And seeing that he was in the real estate industry in New York, but also seeing that he was Puerto Rican as well. So I actually approached Josh with my first introduction to Joshua from the internet, from Instagram, was, hey, my name is Tanya. I have this tourism company in Puerto Rico. I see that you're in real estate. I have this amazing idea, that I think would pretty cool. Maybe you'll be interested in it. And I approached him, and on that matter, as far as like us maybe working together and doing doing real estate tourism. At that time, he wasn't really interested in it, but it helped us for the future.
It was only because, like, truthfully speaking, I didn't have enough connections on the island. Like, yeah, my dad lived on the island, but I'm still learning about the island, right? Like, I haven't visited the island until, obviously now. I hadn't visited the island for 15 years. Although my dad and I, we keep in touch and whatnot. I thought it was an amazing idea. I loved what she was doing with Puerto Rico. I wanted to be involved in some way, shape, or form. So we definitely kept in touch because of that.
That's awesome. It's and I forgot we had that conversation, Tanya, but that was something that I picked up from West Africa, where that's a huge business.
Don't get me wrong. I think Josh and I, once he relocates, I definitely see us getting on that, because his father is in construction and he still has his real estate background. I definitely still see it, because my vision was, let's get these people that do want to invest, and we'll get them to get their properties, because at the same, we could definitely make money off of that. Just doing tours of showing homes, and if somebody buys off of our tour, we're getting a percentage of that.
Of course. And
I love the idea.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, especially when it came to Puerto Rico. I have a good friend of mine, Daniel, who has been there many times for work, but also was looking at properties. And it's that conversation too, is like, what's the slippery slope or the line in terms of taking advantage versus helping the community.
Right.
And community. I know we talked about that, Tanya, that ultimately people are all different. They all have different situations. And if they need to sell their property for whatever reason, it'd be great to give them that opportunity. Because sometimes there are properties in the middle of nowhere, no matter where we're talking about in the world.
Right,
and
it's true.
They want to sell them, but they can't, because they don't know how to get it out there, and they don't know how to market it. And so if you can bring people to them, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's a win-win situation.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And there are situations too where you have people with a decent amount of land, And it's not that you're booting them out of their heritage and you're taking away what they grew up on, but maybe you're just, selling it, helping them to sell off a piece so that they can, still exist. And there are parts of the world where people have land, they have real estate, but they don't have any income because, it takes money to maintain property and buildings.
Absolutely.
Ask Joshua, Professor, as we drive around. Obviously, I'm his personal tour guide whenever he's in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And his eyeballs just open up. And look at that house. Look at that house. Look at this. And then coming from a New York market, seeing what what the prices are for small spaces, and seeing what you can get for the prices here is just like, it's mind blowing to him.
It's super mind blowing. I mean, New York City is just a totally different market, right? And I have the unique opportunity of having seen my neighborhood, my specific neighborhood. Growing up here was not the safest neighborhood. I mean, it was very violent, very, drug infested, early 80s and 90s. And then I seen this transition in the last 10, 15 years where now you can't even afford a studio. For me, seeing that transition, I also see where Puerto Rico stands now, where can it stand later? But like Professor said, let's keep it community. What did I witness, right? And how did the neighborhood get lost? So now how can I reverse engineer that if we were to decide to, like you said, buy land, but keep it within range where, yes, Professor, you have all this land and you can sell it still a small piece. You don't lose your specific land, but now you have some upgrading going on around you, which also brings up property values. Mm-hmm. So I kind of take that, experience with here in New York City, and that's kind of why my eyes are so wide open when it comes to Puerto Rico and everything that we're doing over there. It's always been a dream of mine to actually be able to bring opportunity back to the island. Just never knew how I would do it. My dad, gave me a lot of inspiration with his school and everything that he has going on in construction, along with Tanya and her tourism. So it's just, I feel like it's a beautiful thing. It's just a good mixture of what we're trying to accomplish here.
And also an open market, the opportunity, to not just,
it's an open economy.
The thing is that, honestly, Professor, I think one of the major issues on this island is that the young people are educated, but there's not enough innovators. There's just not enough innovators. There's not enough people that want to create or even want to use their own personal talents to create their own business. They feel like there's no jobs, there's no opportunities, but then they don't see the opportunity to create one. A lot of people tell me, they were like, oh, well, the government here makes it hard to get licensing and to this, it's so expensive to get it, it's this and that. But I think that some people are there's not a lot of opportunity to even teach them how to even go about these things. Don't get me wrong, these things are tedious, but I did all my registration for, my business while I was still in New York over the computer, A lot of it has to do, number one, the education on the island. My child, she's in a public school in Puerto Rico. She's in the 8th grade. There's no computers. There's no technology in her school. So how are these students even going to learn how to use a computer if you don't have it in school, let alone, I'm sure some of your parents can't afford it in their home. Everything is based on their cell phones or their, or iPads, if they even have that. So I think, and I was telling this to Joshua, I feel like our next mission is to maybe start going to these colleges with these young people and teaching them entrepreneurism, teaching them how to take their talents and even kind of just mentoring them as far as okay, he has background in real estate, he has background in media, he has background in marketing. Those are 3 things that they're all different, that he can teach students. I have tourism, I have customer service, I also have marketing as well. So I feel like us as a team, I feel like us sharing our knowledge, of course, and then we both have entrepreneurism. So I think us being able to show students, listen, You don't have to leave Puerto Rico. The opportunities are right here. Because every time you
Such a
leave
beautiful
to
island.
go work for someone else, and you're not giving your
You
own
take your
self
talents and money
you
with
could
you.
stay on this beautiful island, you can have your beautiful house and just live and enjoy life right here, and keep building this economy versus building another place.
Well,
Yep.
we'll talk more because there is a project that I'm working on, and actually tomorrow, I believe it's tomorrow, I kick off the first in many discussions about exactly what you just described, which is the idea that young people especially are not getting that exposure to entrepreneurship and startup culture, and there's a real opportunity to teach them those skills. So I'm going to turn off my video so you can see the image. So it's called
This is
Tourism.
awesome.
And basically, my focus is more on West Africa. So I'm meeting with Michael tomorrow for the first time. And basically, the whole idea, he owns a farm just outside the capital city in Ghana. And we've had discussions before, but I said, look, Michael, let's have it on tape and let's share it with other people, because it's a way to illustrate how you can take one thing and turn it into something.
One concept and bring it everywhere.
I mean, it's the same thing,
just bring it to life.
It's not like she invented the island. It's not like she created these amazing places. What she did is she found something, and then she created the product. She provided the service. She provided, she got the transportation hooked up. She got the people in place.
Wow.
And that's a process. But it's a process that can be taught. And it's, I'm of the belief, and this is a lot more, and I know I need to come back to Puerto Rico. I will, because now you've inspired me again to do that.
You must. Yeah, I have to bring you to my dad's school, because I'm totally I love what he's doing. He's expanding it. I'm also trying to get the connections needed to get some iPads there.
No, Professor, but he's taking homes. He's taking houses. Houses and not in the best parts of Puerto Rico, in the city, in Santurce, and literally combining these houses and making them into full-blown schools, like private schools for these kids. It's insane.
He's amazing.
With his bare hands, Professor, because he's a carpenter.
No, that's awesome. And it reminds me a lot of the early work that I did in Ghana. And it's, I love working with the kids and
beautiful.
Helping them with that spark. And actually, I don't see it as such a bad thing to be a mobile first community, because computers are hard to come by, and it's, even if you do have the computers, they have to be maintained, and then you have to have a good internet strength, and there's all these
there's a lot of obstacles.
The factors.
A lot of places around the world, it's mobile first, and you can do a lot of learning through a phone if you just frame it the right way. So we'll talk more about
properly. Yeah.
So let's talk the most recent pivot, and this is really where both of you get to go back and forth, is COVID-19. Pandemic hits, everything shuts down, no tourism.
My eyes automatically get watery. When I think about this, because honestly, for me, this was worse than Hurricane Maria.
Okay.
In a sense, it is.
Hurricane Maria for me.
Well, I mean, if you look at...
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I mean, the reason why I see it worse than Hurricane Maria is because now you have a completely closed economy. We're not talking about where you can still somewhat operate. Yeah, you're in survival mode, but, and I guess you can say better because you experienced it. I only experienced it through my dad. But just knowing that you were still to be able to operate, right? Like you were still able to bring some kind of income in,
revenue,
and still help the island, right? With COVID-19, you're completely shut down. Stay home and just think to yourself, what's the next move?
Professor, COVID-19 made me feel like the first 3 years of my business, or the past 3 years of my business and my life never existed. Like it never happened. One, because I was so, first of all, My business last year, I'm not sure if I shared this with you or not, Professor, but revenue wise, I did about $70,000 worth in sales by myself last year. My goal for 2020, I was gunning for the 100,000. I was gunning for the 6 figures in sales and revenue. My word of mouth, my reputation on this island became so big. Like I'm literally that go-to person, especially for like a lot of people in New York. Like it's like they come back, oh, my friend, my cousin, my sister, my this, my that, my coworker. Someone spent a day with me and like they could not stop talking about you. They said it's the best experience in Puerto Rico that they ever had. You know,
I have to co-sign
so
that.
I was already like, I already had tours of groups of 18, Professor, groups of 18 that were already pre-paying for, you know, for their private boating, this and that. I literally had to turn in between March and let's say the middle of April, within a month, I had to turn in over $8,000 of revenue that was already given to me for down payments of, you know, of tours and bookings. Because as the years went on, I went from doing tours that only consisted of 2 to maybe 4 people to doing groups of 8, to doing groups of 12, to doing groups of 15. Now you're talking 18. Don't get me wrong, I still have a group of 18 girls coming, I think in November. And she has me on Facebook, she has me on Instagram. It's just like, I cannot wait to meet you. Like I even build relationship with some of my clients before they even get here. Like that confidence, that vibe, that family. I think for me, I love to treat everyone like family, no matter where you're from, no matter what age you are. So because that's how Puerto Rico is itself. Like no matter where you go on the island, it's very like, we're family. We don't know you, but you're family. And so, you know, COVID just made me think about, well, I know tourism is just flatline, right? Like it's just not gonna happen. I don't know even when it's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, because not only can I kind of start redoing tours soon, but now I have to do it with safety precautions. Right. You know, like now I have to do things a little bit differently than what I would normally do them. So, but because I have built this relationship with Joshua, and you know, he had planned on coming. The thing was that he was planning on coming to Puerto Rico to help me with my business, but then I didn't have a business right now. So
with the media,
he came up with the sanitizing company was literally his idea.
That's great. So tell us more about the sanitizing company, because that's a big pivot.
A complete pivot.
It's very appropriate.
Nothing to do with tourism.
Like literally nothing to do with real estate, nothing to do with anything. I mean, literally anything, because I've never owned any kind of sanitizing company or anything like that. But my thing was like, okay, here we are in this pandemic. What is the opportunity, right? We started seeking stocks, right? And I'm like, I'm not a stock trader, but there's opportunity there. You know, eventually people are going to be able to fly again. Hey, babe, let's get into airplane stocks. But in between that, we're like, how are we going to bring in revenue? Like revenue, immediate revenue. And it dawned on me. It was like, well, why not start a disinfecting and sanitizing company? Well, you already know that this COVID-19 thing is not going to go away anytime soon. I think it's a great pivot. Let's try. And what we did together was just start looking into overheads, what the equipment costs, what is it going to take to kill viruses, germs, bacterias? You know, what kind of technology is offered to us now? So once we started looking into the equipment cost, the overhead, we looked at each other and we like, look, we can actually do this. We can actually offer this service. You have amazing customer service. You already know how to build a website. You just did that for the tourism company. I know how to market. I know how to brand. We both have this hustle behind us where we don't mind going groundwork and dropping on flyers and saying, hey, this is our new service. This is what we're offering. We're in DMs. We're sending out emails. I mean, before Facebook decided
we literally walked around Old San Juan. We literally walked around Old San Juan a couple weeks ago, maybe like 2 weeks ago when Joshua was in Puerto Rico. Went to like some of the hotels that were open, not just Old San Juan, but some of the hotels in Isla Verde, and walked in with our flyers and was like, hey, we were offering, as a marketing strategy, offering just complimentary lobby and front desk service, right? Just so that they can see what it does. You have a whole hotel left over, right? What is it going to cost us to just do a lobby and a front desk? our machines use vaporized water. I use water, distilled
Yeah,
water
it's
that becomes
distilled
vapor.
water, so it's like a gallon that's 89
Yeah, that
cents.
becomes
That's
vapor. So we're not losing, we're using, literally using water. I mean, right, we're still trying to get it up off the ground. And like I told Joshua, I think what works for us is that he has his, his situation in New York, where he got his workers, that people that can work with him. I have my cousin that actually works for like a few buildings in New York that he kind of offered to kind of get our business out there as well. But for me, we have hotels, we have Airbnb hosts. I have my own personal Airbnb hosts that market my tours. So now we're like, hey, like we want to offer you guys a service for your clients to feel safe when they're staying in your rooms. So right now, like we're still in the beginning stage, but I can tell you this, Professor. We came up with this idea and just started working together.
30 days.
But back in March, I went to New York, March 21st. We would wake up from like a 4-hour nap at 1 o'clock in the morning and literally building websites, doing research, just ideas falling back and forth. It's now the middle of it's just almost the end of May. So maybe like 2 months now we've been in 60 days. And he've already done a couple of cars. So we're also doing vehicles as well.
Sent
And
out
we
a
do
few
have
proposals for some hotels.
We have some proposals in the work with hotels, Airbnbs. And then we're going to start targeting the car rentals,
Restaurants,
barbershop, salons, studios, because it's a service that pretty much everyone's going to need, and not everyone's going to have the equipment to do it. So.
No, that's awesome. And for me, that's a great example of what a pivot should be. I mean, no matter what comes at you, you should always have that instant, you could be the pessimist and say, you know what, my tour business went bye-bye. I just got to wait till November. But no.
I did definitely go through a little period with them. I mean, ask Joshua. I mean, I talk to him every single day. So I did definitely go through an emotional period where it's just like, because I guess it was just one of those things, Professor, that I thought was going to be like, like Ebola and like all these other little diseases that they say is going to come and it's going to affect our lives. And I was like, okay, one of those little, things are just really not going to fly or affect us that bad. But when it went like this, and I seen, wow, it's not just me. I'm in tourism. When I'm seeing pretty much every industry being affected, then I got scared. I'm like, oh my God, when and how? Like when and how? But Professor, when I tell you, I have clients in the wing, like, Puerto Rico open yet? Puerto Rico open yet? When is it open? Are you gonna let me know when it's open? What is it? And I'm just like, trust me, I will have a horn blower when it's time for it to be opened again. Like, do not get me wrong. You guys will definitely know, because there will be so many postings, videos. I mean, it will be a celebration. Trust me.
No, and that's good. And I think that's part of the formula that's working for a lot of companies, is that being real, being honest with people, and but over communicating, so that, when things do get quote unquote better, they're going to be different. Everything's going to be different going forward.
Yeah.
But as long as you keep in contact with people, I mean, nobody can take away all of the great ratings that you have on TripAdvisor and Viator and other platforms. People know that you are tops when it comes to Puerto Rican tourism. When it comes back, they're going to go back to you, and you have a contact list. And this is just, maybe the part where, we illustrate or talk about some of the best practices for some of the people that eventually see this video or are watching it right now. I mean, CRM is super important. Your customer relationship management, the people that you connect with through social media. If you just go silent, then they're going to go somewhere else to look for, content. If you keep in contact with them.
Trust me, I know, and I battle with that. I told Joshua about that. I battle with that, and I've seen, and I've read it. I read it because I'm a part of the tourism tour. I think it's like tourism tour operators group on Facebook. There's a lot of great insight on on that website, and I did see that, and I definitely, I'm not gonna deny that I did not go a little bit mute. And I've seen it. I lost followers. I lost followers on my Instagram, my business page because of it. You know, I even seen something online that was like, even on your website, you should address the COVID situation on your website. Just don't kind of ignore it. Did I do that? I didn't. You know, you know, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess I don't want to face the music, like, you know. But you know, I know myself, and I know that it takes nothing for me to get right back into the swing of things, because our boats are now available to go out into the water. We just cannot ride to a beach just yet. We have to be 100 feet away from like an island or a beach on a boat. So just being, but we did do like a little family day on Sunday. So just being back on the water is just like, okay, slowly it's gonna come back. You know, like I said, we're doing things a little bit more differently now, because we gotta make sure everybody feels safe and things are sanitized. But I know that I will get right back into the groove of things once things start to pick back up, and I will rebuild my following and kind of just let my clients know, like, okay, we didn't go MIA. We were just trying to figure it all out, honestly. And I'm gonna be honest, Professor, I'm working on the Green Clean team, you know, with Joshua, did take up a good amount of my time, you know, and that was the thing, like I told you, I'm like, listen, I already built one business from the ground up, I can do another one.
Well, and the thing that I was about to say is that I see that as also a way to continue those relationships, because you're still talking to hotels, you're still talking to Airbnb owners and operators, you're talking to car rental companies. These are all people within that cocktail party, so to speak, of what you do from a tourism perspective. So this is a great time to develop.
And Professor, ask Joshua, when I walk into some of these places, it's like people's face light up. They're just so happy to see me. Hola, chica, ¿cómo tú estás? Like, it's just, and that feeling right there of like, just, you know, who you are and your personality and just the way that you treat people. Like, it's so inviting and so welcome that they get excited when they haven't seen you a while, and then you just pop up out of nowhere. Like, it's pretty much everywhere I go. And like, Professor, there's like some of the small places where I take people to eat at. The middle of the mountains, so remote, right, Josh? Like the place that we go eat in the middle of the mountains. And because I bring guests to them consistently, you know that your food is always free. Like, just the way that they treat me, because of how I take care of them. Thank you. That's their thank you for constantly bringing tourism dollars to their super remote destination.
Right, and that's super important. And that's your way of contributing to the tourism ecosystem, which has to exist. And it's, what's funny too is, like, when you describe it that way, some people, even though they're very much a part of that ecosystem, don't realize that they're part of that ecosystem. And so when you bring people, yes, they're selling food and beverage, but they don't realize how important they are to that rich fabric of tourism for the island, and making sure that people experience these things. And you know, overall, whether it's construction, real estate, you know, sanitizing or tourism, it all also helps to make sure that Puerto Rico stays Puerto Rico, and that, you know,
so for me, I look at it in this: when I do my business and when I have my clients, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of both sides, right? I'm taking care of Puerto Rico, especially the local side of Puerto Rico, by bringing them the money that they need, right? Because it's very small, broke family-owned places, very small, hole-in-the-wall places. And it's like, but for me, the experience for the client is more traditional, more local. Like, instead of you eating a high-priced Spanish meal in San Juan, you're gonna get a low-priced family-style grandma meal in the middle of Atillo, right? In a little town called Atillo, where you could see that the lady is somebody's grandmother in the back, and now you're eating the way I would eat in my home, or the way I would eat in my grandmother's house, and it costs you $7 versus $17, and everything is just commercially made, you know? So that's what I look at. I'm like, okay, as long as you get that local experience and that local vibe, where you're gonna literally eat on the side of the road and my people here are benefiting from that, I'm a happy woman and my job is done.
Yeah, and it's the perfect example of the multiplier effect where you're helping that money to come in and go to places where it wouldn't normally go, even if it's just $7. One, it's super authentic and highly efficient, and that grandmother is making some good money, some decent money for her family. So it's good that you're providing that opportunity. And I, honestly, from a traveling perspective, as a traveler, as a tourist myself, when I go to places, I don't want to go to places where it's not going to be special. I want to go to places that are more authentic, real, tasty.
Professor, if I once you finally come down here, and I show you some of my tourism places, I'm gonna be honest. Like one of the places I always wonder, like, how do they feel coming into this park? It's so close to the high tourist zone, and where like all the hotels are. It's literally 5 minutes in a car, if that. But it's so closed off. It's kind of where the Africans have settled when it came to Puerto Rico, but it's forgotten about. They don't like the mayor there does not clean up the town. Right, Josh? You're on mute. In Loíza, Piñones, and Piñones, and that little strip where we go to get all the fried foods. It still hasn't even been cleaned up since Hurricane Maria, Professor. The amount of garbage and the amount of just like things around, and I've yet to get a person who tells me like, oh my God, I can't believe like you're bringing me to somewhere that I feel unsafe, or they don't get that vibe. But when they eat the food that's from there, like the fried fritters and stuff like that, they're like, oh my God, this is the best, because that's where I do my cooking at. And it's outdoors, and there's like, wow, this is some of the best food that I had. And it's not the most beautiful place, but I mean, you want real PR tours, you're gonna get the real PR. Like that's what we're gonna show you.
Yeah, and
it's not all glitz and glamour. But if you want,
I love that because,
traditional,
ironically, where Josh is, when I used to do tours, and now I'm wrapping that up at this point in New York, but I would always take clients up to the Bronx, because to me, that's where real New Yorkers are.
Josh is actually from the LES. He's from the Lower East Side.
Well, I take him there too. I take him to LES. I take him to the Bronx. I take him into different parts of Brooklyn. But it just, if they contact me and they say, oh, I'd love to go to Times Square, I was like, well, have fun doing that, because I'm not going to take you.
I'm going to be honest.
Hey,
so
really quickly, I have to jump on another call in
Okay,
like 5 minutes.
Okay. No worries.
We'll wrap up soon.
Go ahead, Tanya.
So the thing is that like I felt the same way. Like at first I was like, I'm not doing Old San Juan. I'm just not going to do it. But then I was like, oh my God, all these cruise ships that come in and dock. So what I did though is that I did half of the high tourist zone. I did like an hour walk of Old San Juan, but the other like hour or so, I would take them to that cooking area on the local side. So like that, you get a little bit of both. You were still gonna get a local experience. I just was not just gonna cover, But after a while, I just despise walking around Old San Juan in the heat. It's too crowded. I completely ripped it off my website. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I didn't enjoy it at all. And there's plenty of tours that go there. So yeah, have fun.
Right. So let's do this part, which I'm building into all these interviews, and this is specifically for you, Tanya.
Okay.
10 years from now, how would you want to be described? If somebody in the sector somewhere in Puerto Rico and they're asked, this Tanya, queen of tourism in Puerto Rico, how do you want to be described?
So I honestly would want to be described as the person that always wanted to provide for the people. Like she literally was, all about not just giving back, because that's community service, but just representing the people in the light that they were meant to be represented in, meaning their hospitality. So this other business, this brand that I created a little bit after Hurricane Maria, was called the Body Love brand. Mm-hmm. And for me, Body Love just represents the Puerto Rican hospitality. Like my hospitality is the way that it is, but it's because I get it a lot from who these people are, So for me, I just wanted to make sure, because I hate to say this, but Puerto Ricans are in New York. We give ourselves a bad name. And, you know, we make the Puerto Ricans from here look bad. But the ones here are just very hardworking, very welcoming, and they just have a sense of hospitality, like kind of like how you have like the down south or southern hospitality. Oh no, there is such thing as a Puerto Rican hospitality. And I just wanted to showcase that, and I wanted to make sure that travelers see that. So for me, it's just always, you know, like, hey, my best experience in Puerto Rico was when I experienced it with Real PR Tours. It was the most authentic. I want to be known as the most authentic tourism company on the island.
That's awesome. So Josh had to leave us, but thank you, Josh, for joining us. I know you're kind of still there.
Thanks, Josh.
But you know, this is that moment where, you know, if somebody wants to get a hold of you or learn more about Real PR Tours, where should they go?
Okay, so we'll start with our website is realprtours.com. Very simple. Instagram is Real PR Travel Experts. As we have now transitioned into not just tourism, but now we do vacation and itinerary building and planning. So now if you're coming to Puerto Rico for 5 days and you need a whole itinerary built out from you with services included, meaning private chefs, private, like if you need a masseuse, then your Airbnb.
Bye, guys.
Bye. So you see you. Text me. Private chefs, things like that. We're able to provide even like nails, hair, stuff like that. We're able to provide those services, you know, in your Airbnb. So we are able to create your whole entire itinerary from front to back. So now Real PR Travel Experts on Instagram. Facebook is still Real PR Tours. And yeah, you can even just Google us. We'll definitely pop up. And of course, TripAdvisor to see our amazing reviews that we have created.
Of course. Again, thank you so much. Again, you had to be the first because you inspired this idea, and
thank you.
It's
I'm
always
honored. I'm so honored. I've actually recorded the whole thing. I can't wait to like share it on my YouTube channel and stuff like that, and put it up on my IGTV if I can, wherever is going to allow me to do a whole hour on here.
Yeah, it's good, and I will certainly do a little bit of editing and upload it to YouTube as well. So
thank you.
Again, thank you. It's always great to talk to you, and
thank you to whoever, if we had any audience. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, people picked up some tips and tricks, and if not, I know that they're inspired. So that's
passions make dollars. Never chase the dollars, always chase the passion.
Awesome. And with that, we'll end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. Have it and take care. Everyone stay safe, okay? We'll see you soon in Puerto Rico.
All right. Bye, Tanya.
Bye-bye.